Your words can build your man up or slowly destroy him. Nagging, sarcasm, constant criticism, that does not ever motivate a man. It drains him. You might think you're just being honest or playful, but that chips away at his spirit. Inside, he's shutting down. And the part that most women miss, men don't always speak up about how the words affect them right away. They'll carry it quietly until they feel like nothing they do is ever good enough. But when you encourage him, when you correct him with respect, when you choose to speak with him with kindness, instead of tearing him down every chance you get, everything will shift. He feels safe. He feels respected. He feels like he can keep pushing because he has a partner who fuels him, not one that just drains him. That kind of woman becomes his peace, his anchor. And every man will fight to protect peace like that. It's treasure, because once he finds it, he will never risk losing it. Ladies, your words are extremely powerful. Use them to breathe life into him. Build him up. Don't break him down. Be his calm, not his chaos. That is the kind of woman a man never, ever will want to let go.
Imagine this, 50 years of nonstop noise telling men they are the problem, that their very nature is defective, that their strength is violence, their protection is control, their provision is oppression, and their desire is harassment. 50 years of being told to sit down, shut up, pay up, and disappear. And then, almost overnight, the noise stopped. Not because the message changed, but because men finally listened. They took every word at face value, packed up their effort, their attention, their money, their protection, and they walked. And now, right now, as you're watching this, millions of women are waking up to a world that suddenly feels cold, empty, and terrifyingly quiet. They are staring at the wreckage of the world they demanded. And for the first time in half a century, they are asking the one question they swore they would never have to ask. Where did all the good men go? Stay with me until the very end, because by the time this video is over, you are going to see exactly where those men went, why they are never coming back, and why what is happening to women right now is the most predictable plot twist in human history. If you feel that fire in your chest already, do me a favor right now. Smash that like button. Share this video with every man you know who needs to hear the truth. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell and select all so you never miss a single upload the moment it drops. This is Angry Guy content at its purest, and we are just getting started. And listen, if you want to protect everything you are building in this collapsing world, if you want to learn how to buy, sell, and trade crypto the right way, how to safeguard your assets and grow real wealth while everything else burns, go check out Angry's Crypto Academy. The link is in the description. Click it right now, get enrolled, and start stacking skills that actually matter. And if you're enjoying these videos, if these messages are hitting home and waking you up, show some love and buy me a Red Bull through the link in the description. Every can keeps the fire coming. Let's get into it. Picture this. It is 1965. A man wakes up, kisses his wife, goes to work in a factory or an office, comes home, fixes whatever is broken in the house, plays with his kids, and sleeps knowing that tomorrow he will do it all again. Because that is what men do. He is not perfect, he is human, but he is proud, he is needed, he is respected. Fast forward 50 years. That same man, or his son, or his grandson, wakes up to a world that has spent 5 decades telling him every part of who he is wrong. His strength is toxic. His desire to provide is patriarchal. His instinct to protect is controlling. His natural way of sitting on a train is manspreading. His compliment is harassment. His silence is still somehow violence. Every institution, every classroom, every television screen, every social media platform has been screaming the same message on repeat. We don't need you. We never needed you. Go away. So men did exactly what they were told. They went away. And now in 2025, women are flooding social media with tearful videos that all sound exactly the same. Where are all the good men? Why won't anyone approach me anymore? Why is dating impossible? Why can't I find a man who will pay for dinner, fix my car, carry the heavy stuff, make me feel safe? They are posting these videos while sitting in apartments they can barely afford, with degrees they can't pay off, surrounded by cats and houseplants and an emptiness they can't name. And the craziest part, they still don't understand what happened. They think this is a glitch. They think men are just acting childish. They have no idea that this is the most rational, logical, predictable response in the history of male behavior. When you spend half a century telling a group of people they are worthless, defective, and unnecessary, and then you're shocked when they believe you and act accordingly, that is not a glitch. That is cause and effect. Let me say it louder for the people in the back. Men finally listened. They heard, "We don't need you." And they said, "Cool, message received." They heard, "Your masculinity is toxic." And they said, "All right, we'll put it away." They heard, "Stop approaching us, stop talking to us, stop looking at us." And they said, "Done, we're out." And then they did something women never expected. They found peace, real peace. The kind of peace that comes when you stop fighting a war nobody told you was optional. They started working out at home. They started sleeping 8, 9, 10 hours a night. They started businesses from their laptops. They started day trading crypto. They started learning skills that actually make them money instead of impressing people who hate them. They started saying no. No to bad dates. No to entitled attitudes. No to relationships that feel like full time jobs with no pay and constant criticism. No to a society that only calls them when it needs money, muscle, or a scapegoat. And now the economy is starting to creak. Rent is unaffordable. Groceries are luxury items. Here, single women are panic posting about how they can't survive on one income, how everything is too expensive, how they never thought life would feel this hard. And in the comment sections, you see the same desperate pleas. Men, please come back. We didn't mean it. Please start dating us again. But the replies from men are ice cold. You told us to leave you alone. We left you alone. Enjoy. And that is not pettiness, that is peace. That is a man who finally values himself more than your validation. You see, women spent decades waging war on male nature. They called it feminism, they called it equality, they called it progress. They weaponized every institution against men, the schools that drug boys for being boys, the universities that teach men they are the root of all evil, the workplaces that fire men for a rumor, the courts that destroy men for the crime of earning money and getting married. They created a world where a man can lose everything, his kids, his savings, his reputation, his freedom, on nothing more than an accusation. And then they had the nerve to act surprised when men looked at that world and said, "Hard pass." So men walked. And when men walk, society notices because men are the ones who build the roads, fix the power lines, grow the food, defend the borders, and pay the majority of the taxes. When men check out, things stop working. And right now, things are starting to stop working. Look at South Korea. Lowest birth rate on planet Earth. Everyone wants to blame the women, blame the hours, blame the economy. Wrong. The real reason is the men. South Korean men looked at the deal on the table. Marry a woman who is taught to see you as an oppressor. Work yourself to death to pay for an apartment you'll never own. Raise kids who will be taken from you the moment she gets bored. And they said, no thanks. They looked at the anti harassment laws that make it illegal to approach a woman more than 3 times, and they said, perfect, we won't approach at all. And now South Korean women are holding protests, begging men to talk to them again. The same women who cheered those laws are now crying because men are following them to the letter. That is what ruthless compliance looks like. The same thing is happening everywhere. In the United States, men are quietly building home gyms, brewing their own coffee, cooking their own meals, and opting out of the dating market entirely. Restaurants are empty on Friday nights. Bars are closing. Nightclubs are ghost towns. Why? Because men used to be the economic engine of all those industries. Men were the ones buying the drinks, paying for the dates, keeping the whole circus running. When men stop showing up, the circus shuts down. Women are now discovering something terrifying. The world they built doesn't actually want them either. The corporations that told them, you go girl, have it all, are the same ones paying them less because now there are twice as many workers. The universities that sold them 6-figure degrees sold them a lie that those degrees would buy freedom. Instead, they bought debt slavery. The government that promised to take care of them is broke and getting broker by the day. And the men they spent 50 years telling to disappear, those men are doing great. They're sleeping better, eating better, lifting heavier, making more money, and smiling more than they ever have. Because for the first time in their lives, nobody is telling them they're broken. Ladies, winter has arrived, and it's not coming, it's here. You wanted a world without men in it. You got it. You wanted men to stop holding doors, stop paying for dates, stop offering help, stop approaching, stop caring. You got it. You wanted men to treat you like completely independent equals who need nothing from anyone. Congratulations. Men are treating you exactly the way you demanded to be treated. And now that you're living in the world you built, you don't like how it feels. That's not men's fault. That's physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And the craziest part is you still don't get it. You still think this is about men needing to man up. You still think if you cry hard enough on TikTok, men will feel guilty and come running back. Hey guys, in a world pushing you to own nothing and be happy, crypto is your key to survival. Join Angry's Crypto Academy to master buying, selling, and trading crypto. Make huge profits and safeguard your wealth. Plus, discover the one crypto virtually no one is talking about, poised to create new millionaires in the upcoming bull run. The link is in the description of the video below. Go check it out now. You don't understand that guilt doesn't work anymore. Shame doesn't work anymore. The tools you used for 50 years have lost their power because men finally stop caring what you think of them. They care what they think of themselves. And right now, they like what they see in the mirror a whole lot more than they like what they see on your social media. Men have discovered something you never thought they would. Solitude is not the same as loneliness. A man can be completely alone and completely at peace. A man can have zero female attention and still wake up happy every single day because peace is internal. And once a man finds internal peace, no amount of external chaos can touch him. So here we are. Women are posting desperate videos. The economy is wobbling, birth rates are collapsing, and men are thriving. They're quieter than they've ever been, wealthier than they've ever been, healthier than they've ever been, and happier than they've ever been because they finally did the one thing women never thought they would do. They listened. Now let's pull the camera back and look at the bigger picture because what's happening right now is not just a dating crisis. It is not just a where are all the good men sob story. It is the single largest shift in human social dynamics in recorded history. We are watching the collapse of an entire social contract in real time. And most people are too distracted by cat videos and celebrity drama to notice that the ground beneath their feet has already cracked wide open. For thousands of years, the deal was simple. Men protect, men provide, men build, men sacrifice. In exchange, men receive respect, loyalty, family, legacy, and a clear role in the tribe. That contract held civilizations together. It built Rome. It built the pyramids. It built every road you drive on and every bridge you cross. Then, in less than 2 generations, one side of the contract decided they no longer needed the other side. They didn't just renegotiate the contract. They took a flamethrower to it, danced in the ashes, and called it liberation. And now the same people who lit the match are standing in the smoking ruins screaming, "Why is it so cold in here?" You cannot humiliate, demonize, and legally punish an entire gender for 50 years and then act confused when that gender collectively says, "Fine, we'll do something else with our lives." That is not a tantrum. That is not immaturity. That is the most mature decision a man can make when he finally realizes the game is rigged, the referee is paid off, and the stadium is on fire. And here is the part nobody wants to say out loud. Men are not coming back. Not ever. Not because they hate women. Most don't. They just finally love themselves more than they fear being called a name. Once a man crosses that line, once he tastes real peace, real freedom, real self-respect, there is no offer on earth that can pull him back into the plantation. No amount of crying on TikTok, no amount of "I was wrong" videos, no amount of government propaganda telling him to step up is going to work. The spell is broken, the scales have fallen from his eyes, Pandora's box is open, and peace walked out of it. That box is never closing again. Let me paint you a picture of what the average awakened man's life looks like in 2025. He wakes up at whatever time his body tells him to. No alarm clock screaming at him because some corporation decided his time is worth $8 an hour. He drinks the coffee he brewed himself. Instead of paying $6 for a cup served by someone who thinks he is a walking red flag, he trains in his garage gym with the bar he bought once instead of paying a gym membership to be accused of staring. He works from his laptop, trading crypto, building online businesses, freelancing skills he learned on YouTube for free. He eats ribeyes he cooked on a cast iron skillet instead of taking a woman to a restaurant where she complains the whole time and sticks him with the bill. He sleeps diagonally across a king-size bed that belongs only to him. His phone is quiet because the only notifications he gets are price alerts and gains, not arguments and drama. His money stays in his account and compounds instead of disappearing into rent for an apartment he never sees because he is always working to keep someone else comfortable. His stress levels are lower than they have been since childhood. His testosterone is higher than it has been since puberty. His bank account is growing for the first time in his life. And when he looks in the mirror, he likes the man staring back. That is not a fantasy. That is the daily reality for millions of men right now. And every single day, another 10,000 men wake up, look at the old deal, look at the new reality, and quietly choose peace. The exodus is silent, but it is massive. And it is accelerating. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, the average woman in her late 20s or early 30s is staring at a bank account that is negative before payday, a student loan bill that will outlive her, a dating app full of ghosts, and a future that looks lonelier every single day. She was told her entire life that she could have it all: the career, the independence, the fun, the freedom, the family whenever she felt like it. She was told men were holding her back. She was told to put herself first, always. So she did. And now she is first in line for a life that nobody prepared her for. She spent her most fertile years climbing corporate ladders that turned out to be painted on the wall. She spent her best dating years swiping left on men who would have married her at 24 because she was waiting for someone taller, richer, funnier, more exciting. She spent her youth collecting experiences instead of building a family. And now the bill has come due, and there is no man around to help her pay it. Because the men she rejected at 24 are now 34, financially secure, physically fit, emotionally unbreakable, and completely uninterested in a woman who spent a decade telling the world men like him were the problem. That is not punishment, that is math. And the worst part for her is that she still doesn't see it. She still thinks if she makes one more emotional video, if she says, "I've changed," with enough tears in her eyes, if she offers to split the check this time, the men will magically forget 15 years of hostility and come running back. She doesn't understand that those men aren't angry anymore. Anger would mean they still care. They don't. They're indifferent. And indifference is the opposite of love. It's the opposite of hate. It's the absence of investment. You can negotiate with anger. You can soothe hate. You cannot negotiate with a man who simply does not care what you do anymore. That is the black pill in its purest form. Not hatred, not revenge, just observation followed by relocation. Men observed reality, didn't like what they saw, and relocated their time, money, attention, and energy to a place where they are valued themselves. Now let's talk about the state, because this is where the story gets darker than most people are ready to hear. Women traded men for the state. They thought the government would be a better husband than the men they grew up with. They thought welfare checks, child support enforcement, affirmative action, and believe all women laws would replace fathers, providers, and protectors. They were wrong. The state is not a husband. The state is a pimp. The state doesn't love you. The state doesn't care if you're happy. The state cares that you vote, that you consume, that you stay afraid, and that you keep producing taxable labor and future taxpayers. The moment you stop being useful, the state discards you faster than yesterday's trash. And women are about to discover just how disposable they are to the very system they begged to save them from men. Look at what's already happening. The same governments that told women you don't need a man are now rolling out digital ID, social credit systems, carbon tracking apps, and online safety laws that require you to scan your face to access the internet. They sold it as protecting women from harassment. In reality, it's the final stage of turning women into the most monitored, controlled, taxed demographic in history. And the men who used to stand between women and tyranny, those men are gone. They're not coming to the rescue. They're building parallel systems, decentralized economies, crypto networks, and private communities that the state cannot touch. And women are not invited. In 10 years, when the average woman needs a permission slip from the government to buy meat, to travel more than 50 miles from home to post on social media, or to access her own bank account, she is going to look around for the men who used to say, "Not on my watch." And those men will be living in peace, off grid, under the radar, financially sovereign, and completely unreachable. And she will finally understand the true meaning of the phrase, "You wanted equality, you got it." You see, freedom isn't free, and safety isn't safe. Every time women demanded more safety from the state, they traded away another piece of their freedom. Every time they demanded men be punished to make women feel safe, they handed more power to the only entity that has ever enslaved entire populations, government. And now the cage door is closing and the key is melting in the furnace. Men saw it coming. That's why they walked. Men understand something women have never had to learn. The state is not your friend. The corporation is not your family. The university is not your mentor. The dating app is not your matchmaker. All of them are systems designed to extract maximum labor and compliance for minimum reward. Men looked at those systems, said no thanks, and built their own. Women looked at those same systems, said yes, please, and are now shocked to discover the systems don't love them back. By 2030, demographers are openly predicting that 45% of women aged 25 to 44 will be single and childless. When you add in the single mothers who can't find a stable partner, that number climbs past 60%. 60% of an entire generation of women alone, in debt, in poor health, with no family support structure and no safety net except a government that is bankrupt and authoritarian. And on the other side of the fence, men will be healthier, wealthier, happier, and more connected to each other than any generation of men in history because they finally stopped trying to save people who didn't want to be saved. That is not theory. That is the trajectory we are already on. And the most ruthless part of all of this, men aren't doing any of this out of spite. They're not organizing boycotts. They're not making TikToks bragging about it. They're not even talking about it most of the time. They're just quietly living better lives. The cruelty isn't in what they're doing. The cruelty is in how little it takes for them to be happier than they ever were when they were giving everything to women in society. All they had to do was stop. That's it. Just stop showing up. Stop paying. Stop fixing. Stop protecting. Stop caring. And instantly, their lives got better. That's how bad the old deal really was. So when women cry, "Where are all the good men?" the answer is simple. They're right where you told them to go. Away. They're at home. They're in the gym. They're stacking crypto. They're sleeping 8 hours. They're eating steak. They're laughing with their brothers. They're free. And they're never, ever coming back. Because peace is addictive. Once you taste it, nothing else will do it. Let's go deeper now, because most people stop at the surface level. Men are walking away. Women are crying. Haha, karma. That's the TikTok version. That's the 60-second clip that gets a million likes. But we're not here for sound bites. We're here for the full autopsy of a dying social order, because what is happening right now is bigger than dating, bigger than relationships, bigger than male female dynamics. We are watching the controlled demolition of the very foundation that kept civilization stable for thousands of years. And the detonator was handed to the people who screamed loudest that they didn't need foundations anymore. And then let me take you back to the moment the detonator was built. Second wave feminism didn't just say, let women vote, let women work, let women own property. Those battles were already won by the first wave. Second wave feminism said something far more radical. Women do not need men for anything, not protection, not provision, not emotional stability, not even reproduction long term. They sold the idea that the nuclear family was a prison, that marriage was slavery, that motherhood was a trap, and that any woman who wanted those things was brainwashed by the patriarchy. They turned the natural complementary dance between men and women into a zero sum war, and they convinced you and an entire generation of women that winning that war meant total independence from male cooperation. So women declared independence, and men, being logical creatures who respect contracts, have said, Roger that, independence granted, good luck. But here's the part nobody ever says out loud: total independence from men is not freedom, it's exile, because men were never just boyfriends and husbands. Men were the buffer between women and every harsh reality of the world. Men were the reason the power stayed on when the bill was late. Men were the reason the car started in the winter. Men were the reason the streets were safe enough for a woman to walk at night without carrying a knife in each hand. Men were the reason the shelves stayed stocked in the grocery store. Men were the reason wars were fought far away instead of in your backyard. Men were the reason the state couldn't just kick your door in and take whatever it wanted. Men were the immune system of civilization, and women spent 50 years telling the immune system it was a virus. So the immune system shut down. And now the patient is getting sick. You see it in the little things first. The dating market collapses, restaurants go quiet on Friday nights, nightclubs close, gyms lose half their membership because men built garages with $500 worth of equipment and never look back. Coffee shops lose the guys who used to buy 2 lattes so the girl would sit with them for 20 minutes. Then it spreads. Birth rates plummet. Marriage rates crater. Home ownership among young people becomes a punchline. And then the big things start cracking. Tax revenue shrinks because single men pay way less tax than married men with kids. Social security and pension systems wobble because there aren't enough new workers to fund the old ones. Cities that built their entire economy around singles nightlife and brunch culture suddenly have blocks of empty storefronts. Entire industries built on female consumption, wedding industry, anyone, start bleeding money. This is not theory. This is happening right now. Japan has been the canary in the coal mine for 20 years. They're now removing unused playgrounds because there are no children to use them. Entire villages are being abandoned because the last generation never replaced itself. And every single journalist who writes about it blames work culture or high expectations or economic pressure. Nobody dares say the obvious. Japanese men checked out of the marriage game decades ago because the deal was garbage, and Japanese women cheered it on until the silence became deafening. The West is just 10 to 15 years behind Japan. We're on the same exact trajectory, just with better marketing and louder music while the ship sinks. And the most terrifying part? The state loves this. The state doesn't want strong families. Strong families are harder to control. The state wants dependent individuals who have no loyalty higher than the government. That's why every policy for the last 50 years has incentivized single motherhood, punished marriage, rewarded divorce, and subsidized every lifestyle except the stable nuclear family. The state looked at women and said, "We'll be your husband now." And women said, "Yes, daddy," without realizing daddy was holding a contract written in disappearing ink. Now the state is broke. The promises are running out. The debt is unpayable. And the men who used to generate the surplus wealth that funded all those promises, they're gone. They're off grid. They're in crypto. They're minimalists. They're child free by choice. They're paying the absolute minimum into a system they no longer believe in. And every year, another million men join them. You think the gender pay gap is bad now? Wait until the majority of high earning men are voluntarily single and childless. Wait until the tax base is a bunch of broke single women and a government that can't print money fast enough to keep the lights on. Wait until the only men still participating in the old system are the ones who haven't woken up yet, and the state starts drafting them into mandatory national service to keep the machine running. That's not dystopian fiction. That's the logical endpoint of where we are right now. Women are about to learn the difference between rights on paper and power in practice. You can have the legal right to do anything you want, but if no one will hire you, date you, protect you, or cooperate with you, those rights are just decorations on a cage. And the cage is closing. Look at what's already happening in corporate America. Men are quietly mentoring other men, promoting other men, hiring other men, and shutting women out of the informal networks that actually control advancement. It's not illegal. It's not even overt. It's just men looking out for men the way every other group on earth looks out for its own. Women spent decades demanding men stop helping them because patriarchy. So men stopped. And now women are shocked that the glass ceiling didn't shatter. It just moved to a different building they're no longer invited into. The same thing is happening in trades. Electricians, plumbers, mechanics, men are teaching their sons, their nephews, their buddies, but not women, not out of hatred, out of self preservation. Why train someone who might turn around and accuse you of something tomorrow? Why invest in someone who was taught to see you as the enemy? So the trades stay male, the high paying, reliable jobs stay male, and women are left fighting over the shrinking pool of corporate jobs that AI is about to wipe out anyway. And speaking of AI, let's talk about what happens when the last male dominated sector, tech, finishes automating the last female dominated sectors: HR, marketing, administration, teaching, nursing support roles. Millions of women are about to discover that their degrees in communications or gender studies don't protect them from a robot that works 24/7 for pennies. And the men who built those robots, they'll be fine. They'll own the companies, they'll own the patents, they'll own the crypto that funds the new economy, and they'll have zero incentive to share. This is the future women built. This is the future they celebrated. This is the future they demanded men step aside for. And now it's here. And the silence from men is deafening. You don't see men celebrating this. You don't see men dancing in the streets. You see men quietly living better lives than they ever thought possible. You see men finally breathing for the first time since they were boys. You see men discovering that happiness was never out there in the world. It was always inside, buried under layers of obligation and shame and guilt that society piled on them. The greatest plot twist in all of this: men didn't need to fight back. They didn't need to organize. They didn't need a movement. All they had to do was stop participating in their own destruction. That's it. The most powerful revolution in human history is being fought with absence, with silence, with peace. Women told men, "We don't need you." Men heard, "You are free to go." And they left. And now the world women built without men is revealing itself to be a house of cards in a windstorm. And the wind is just getting started. Now let's talk about the part that keeps women up at night, even when they won't admit it out loud. The wall, not the metaphorical wall people joke about. I'm talking about the real biological, non negotiable wall that every woman meets between the ages of 32 and 38, depending on genetics, lifestyle, and how kindly time has treated her. That wall is not a social construct. It's not a patriarchal invention. It's not something men made up to control women. It is the moment when fertility drops off a cliff, when pair bonding capacity starts to fray, when the dating value that was once handed to her for free simply by existing begins to evaporate faster than she ever thought possible. For 20 years, she was told that wall didn't exist. She was told she could have it all and have it on her timeline. She was told her degree, her career, her independence, and her body count were all assets, not liabilities. She was told the men who warned her were just bitter, insecure, or trying to control her. So she believed the fairy tale. She rode the wave of unlimited male attention from 18 to 30, collected orbiters like Pokemon cards, friend zoned the good ones, chased the exciting ones, and assumed the party would never end because nobody ever showed her the guest list has an expiration date. And then one day she wakes up, opens the dating apps, and the silence is deafening. The matches slow to a trickle. The quality plummets. The men her age who still have hair, money, and options are either already locked down by younger women or they're the same awakened men we've been talking about. Calm, fit, financially secure, emotionally bulletproof, and completely uninterested in a woman who spent her prime years treating men like disposable entertainment. The younger guys who do swipe right are looking for the same thing she gave away for free at 24, and now she's expected to give it away again just to get a text back. The high value men her age look at her dating history, her debt, her attitude, and her cat collection and quietly swipe left without a second thought. That is the wall. And it is undefeated. You can argue with men. You can argue with society. You can argue with your boss. You cannot argue with biology. You can put as many filters on the photo as you want, but the ultrasound machine doesn't care about Valencia or Juno. The fertility clinic doesn't care about your master's degree or your corporate title. The IVF statistics laugh at your affirmations, and the men who once would have overlooked every red flag because you were 25 and fertile now look at the same red flags at 35 and see nothing but risk. That is not punishment. That is nature collecting the bill you kept telling the waiter to put on someone else's tab. And the worst part, she still has to go to work every day and sit across from the 25-year-old version of herself who is getting the attention, the promotions, the free drinks, the orbiters, the options, everything she used to have. And she has to pretend it doesn't feel like dying inside. She has to watch the young guys at the office flirt with the new hires while treating her like background furniture. She has to smile while the same women who told her, "You go, girl, live your best life" 10 years ago are now quietly getting engaged to stable men and starting families, the very thing she was told was oppression. That is the real female loneliness epidemic nobody wants to name. It's not that there are no men, there are plenty of men. They're just not hers anymore. They're in the gym getting stronger. They're in their apartments getting richer. They're on fishing trips with their brothers, laughing about the peace they finally found. They're dating women who never called them toxic, who never made them wait 3 days for a text, who never treated dating like an interview for an unpaid internship. They're dating younger women who still have hope, who still believe in family, who still see men as partners instead of enemies or walking ATM machines. And those men are happier than they have ever been. Meanwhile, the women who spent a decade screaming, "The future is female," are now staring at a future that looks like wine, antidepressants, and a cat that doesn't love them back. And the comments on their tearful videos are brutal, not because men are cruel, but because men are honest now. You told us to leave you alone. We left. You wanted equality. You got it. Enjoy the bed you made. We're good over here. No anger, no gloating, just cold, calm truth. Because anger requires investment. And men have divested completely on. Let's talk about the economy again, because this is where it goes from personal pain to civilizational collapse. Every empire that ever fell had one thing in common: the men stopped believing the story. Rome didn't fall because of barbarians at the gates. Rome fell because Roman men stopped caring whether Rome stood or fell. They stopped joining the legions. They stopped paying taxes. They stopped fathering children who would grow up to defend the empire. The barbarians were just the cleanup crew. We are watching the exact same script play out in real time. The men who used to build everything, fix everything, pay for everything, and defend everything have looked at the return on investment and quietly said, no thanks. They're not burning society down. They're just refusing to keep building it for people who hate them. And a society that cannot convince its men to invest in its future has no future. Look at the numbers coming out of the Census Bureau and Pew Research. Marriage rates are at all-time lows. Birth rates are below replacement in every developed country. Male labor force participation is dropping. Male college enrollment is collapsing. Male suicide rates are through the roof. Yet nobody in power seems to care because those men aren't voting as a bloc. They aren't rioting. They aren't even complaining anymore. They're just quietly exiting stage left. And every year, the system loses another battalion of men who would have been the doctors, the engineers, the soldiers, the fathers, the taxpayers, the protectors. Instead, those men are playing video games, lifting weights, trading meme coins, and living lives of quiet luxury that cost a fraction of what the old life demanded. The system is bleeding out, and the wound is self-inflicted. And women are starting to feel it in their bank accounts. Rent is due. If your groceries are insane, and car insurance doubled, health insurance is a joke, and there is no man around to pick up the slack anymore. The same women who used to post, "I don't need a man, I have a good job," are now posting GoFundMe links because their good job doesn't cover birth control, rent, and DoorDash. The same women who bragged about their body count are now realizing that number is the exact reason no high value man will commit. The same women who cheered when men were fired for a tweet are now wondering why the dating pool is full of unemployed activists with purple hair and pronouns. The irony is thicker than a winter coat. And the state is watching all of this with a smile because every broken family, every single mother, every alienated man is another dependent voter who will trade freedom for a welfare check. The state doesn't want you married. The state doesn't want you debt-free. The state doesn't want you self-sufficient. The state wants you afraid, isolated, and begging for the next stimulus that will never be enough. Women traded husbands for the state, and the state is about to foreclose. By 2035, the math becomes undeniable. The pension systems collapse. The healthcare systems collapse. The power grid starts browning out because there aren't enough men maintaining it. The military can't meet recruitment goals because young men look at the deal and choose freedom instead. Cities that spent decades catering to single women become ghost towns of empty yoga studios and wine bars with no customers. And the women who spent their lives being told you are enough discover that enough doesn't pay the electric bill. Meanwhile, the men who walked away are living in small towns, off-grid compounds, crypto-funded communes, and overseas enclaves where the cost of living is low. The women are traditional, and the government can't find them to tax them. They're healthier than ever because stress no longer lives in their house. They're wealthier than ever because their money stays in their pocket. They're happier than ever because drama is no longer their full-time job. And when the grid finally goes dark and the cities start eating themselves, those men will still have power, food, water, community, and peace because they prepared, because they listened, because they walked. And the women who spent decades telling them to go away will be left holding a phone with no signal, a degree that's worthless, and a cat that's now dinner. That is not hyperbole. That is the trajectory. That is winter. And winter doesn't negotiate. Now we reach the part most people refuse to say out loud because it cuts straight through every comforting lie society has been feeding women for 2 generations. So I'm going to say it slow, clear, and without apology. Women were never liberated by feminism. They were taxed. That is the entire game in one sentence. Before second wave feminism, a woman could marry at 22, have children, raise them, keep a beautiful home, and never once punch a time clock unless she wanted to. One male income was enough, often more than enough, to buy a house, 2 cars, yearly vacations, and a future for the kids. She had the option of work, but she did not have the obligation. Her husband was legally and socially compelled to provide, and in exchange, she gave him loyalty, peace, children, and a reason to keep building the world. Feminism came along and said, you don't need that deal anymore. Go be independent. Go be bosses. Go have careers in casual sex and travel and live your best life. And millions of women cheered and burned the old contract. What nobody told them, what they were deliberately never told, was that the moment women entered the workforce en masse, the entire economic structure shifted to exploit them. Wages stagnated for men because supply of labor doubled overnight. Corporations could pay half as much per worker and still get the job done. The cost of housing, education, healthcare, and childcare all magically doubled at the exact same moment, so that now two incomes are required to purchase what one income used to buy. The tax base doubled, so the government got fat. Corporations got record profits. And women got exhaustion, debt, and the privilege of working until they're 70 while still being told they're oppressed. They didn't break the glass ceiling, they broke into the coal mine. And the worst part, they no longer have the exit door. The traditional path, marry a good man, let him provide, raise your children in peace, has been deliberately destroyed. Men have been incentivized in every possible way to avoid marriage and fatherhood. The courts will destroy him financially, the culture will destroy him socially. His own children can be weaponized against him tomorrow. So he looks at the deal, shrugs, and says, I'll keep my money, my freedom, and my peace. Women lost the best deal humanity ever offered them, and they lost it permanently. They traded a protector for a pimp, and the pimp doesn't love them. Now let's talk about the sexual revolution, because this one stings even harder. Women were told, sleep with whoever you want, as many as you want, whenever you want. Your body, your choice. Men do it. Why shouldn't you? So they did. And science watched. Every sexual partner a woman has before settling down permanently damages her ability to pair bond with a future husband. This is not morality. This is neurochemistry. Oxytocin, dopamine, vasopressin, the bonding chemicals, get blunted with repeated casual encounters. The 20th partner does not feel like the second. The 50th feels like nothing at all. Study after study, quietly buried because they're inconvenient, show that women with higher partner counts have astronomically higher divorce rates, higher depression rates, and lower reported happiness in marriage. Men were designed to spread seed. Women were designed to select and bond. When you force women into the male sexual strategy, you get male outcomes, emotional numbness, inability to commit, and a trail of broken relationships. The sexual revolution didn't free women. It neutered their future marriages before they even happened. And now those same women hit 35, want the family they were told could wait, and discover their body no longer cooperates. The eggs are low quality or gone. The hormones are tanking. The doctors shrug and say, we can try IVF, but your odds are poor and it's $150,000 around. And the awakened men who would have married her at 24 look at her past, her debt, her expectations, and calmly say, no, thank you. She was sold liberation. She was delivered solitude. And the solitude is only beginning. Let's talk about OnlyFans and the final stage of the trap. And that society watched millions of young women drown in student debt and unaffordable rent. And instead of saying, maybe we should lower tuition and stop inflating housing, the machine said, here, sell nudes to strangers. It's empowering. And millions did. Because the alternative was starvation or moving back home with parents who still believed the lie that her degree would pay off. So now she has $47 in her bank account and 400 men who've seen her naked for the price of a coffee. Her future husband, who doesn't exist yet, will be able to Google her butthole in 4K. Her future employer already did. Her tax records permanently show adult industry income. And the men who once would have overlooked everything for love now look at that permanent record and say, hard pass. She thought she was sticking it to the patriarchy. The patriarchy stuck it to her, laughed, and Venmoed itself $20. That is not empowerment. That is the modern version of a company store. The miners used to owe their soul to the company store. Now women owe their future to a platform that takes 20% forever and leaves them with nothing but regret and a digital trail that can never be burned. And the state cheers it on because every OnlyFans transaction is tracked, taxed, and used to build the surveillance cage they'll lock her in later. This is the part where the mask comes fully off. The state never wanted women to be free. The state wanted women dependent, isolated, and afraid because terrified people are easy to control. Strong men with families are the only force in history that ever successfully resists tyranny. So the state spent 50 years using women as a weapon to neuter those men. Divorce laws, false accusation incentives, child support prisons, campus Title IX star chambers, affirmative action that punishes competence, and a culture that teaches boys they are defective girls. It worked. Men are walking away in droves. And now the state turns to women and says, "We're all you've got left." And women are about to learn what men already know. The state is a cold, merciless master that will squeeze every drop of labor, taxes, and compliance out of you, then discard you the moment you're no longer profitable. By 2040, the average woman in the West will be single or divorced, childless or a single mother, in debt up to her eyeballs, working a job I is about to eliminate, living under total digital surveillance, begging a government that is bankrupt for scraps, surrounded by other women doing the same. And the men, they'll be in places the state can't tax, can't track, and can't control. They'll be healthy, wealthy, armed, networked, and laughing. Some will have traditional young wives and big families in low cost countries. Some will be nomadic digital kings. Some will be in tight knit male communities that function like the old school tribes we abandoned. But none of them will be coming back to save a society that spent their entire lives telling them they were the problem. The lifeboats are gone. The ship is listing. And the band is still playing empowerment tunes while the water rises. Women were told they could have it all. They're about to have nothing at all. And the most brutal black pill truth of all, men don't even hate them for it anymore. They just don't care. Indifference is the ultimate victory. And men have already won. And now we stand at the edge of the final truth, the one that ties every thread together into a knot so tight nobody will ever untie it. This is the part where the story stops being about men versus women and becomes about nature versus delusion, about reality versus the most expensive lie ever sold to half the human race. Women were never meant to live this way. They were never designed to be solitary, debt laden, corporate cogs working until their bodies break, coming home to empty apartments and frozen dinners and a phone full of apps that promise connection but deliver nothing but dopamine, hits, and regret. They were never built to compete with men in a world men created to reward masculine traits, risk taking, emotional suppression, linear thinking, physical strength, and relentless focus on mission over feelings. They were never meant to raise children alone while paying strangers to do it for them, then wonder why those children grow up angry and disconnected. Women were designed for partnership, for family, for community, for children, for a life woven into the fabric of something bigger than themselves. That is not tradition talking. That is biology, anthropology, history, and observable reality screaming the same message for 100,000 years. Every single healthy society that ever existed had one thing in common: men and women working together in complementary roles, not identical ones. Men took the risks, fought the wars, built the infrastructure, hunted the mammoths, and stood on the wall so women could do what women do best: create life, nurture life, hold the center together, turn a house into a home, turn a tribe into a civilization. When that partnership breaks, everything breaks. And we broke it on purpose. Like, we told women they didn't need men. We told men they weren't needed. We told both of them the lie that independence equals happiness. And now look around. Happiness is at historic lows. Mental illness is through the roof. Suicide is the leading cause of death for men under 50 in most Western countries. Women are on more psychiatric medication than at any time in recorded history. Children are being raised by screens and strangers. Birth rates are collapsing so fast, demographers don't have models for what comes next. And every single metric of human well being is moving in the wrong direction at the exact same moment we declared ourselves the most free and equal generation that ever lived. Freedom without purpose is torment. Equality without complementarity is war. Independence without interdependence is slow motion suicide. That is what we built. And the final irony: the men who were told they were the problem are the only ones who figured out how to be happy in the wreckage. They didn't need a revolution. They didn't need permission. They didn't need therapy or marches or new laws. They just needed to stop caring what society thought of them, and stop chasing women who didn't want them, and stop working jobs that hated them, stop funding systems that punished them for existing. And when they stopped, they discovered something the old world never wanted them to know. A man alone at peace with his money in his pocket, his body strong, his mind clear, and his purpose self defined is the most powerful force on earth. He cannot be shamed. He cannot be guilted. He cannot be taxed into submission if he refuses to earn more than the system can take. He cannot be drafted if he refuses to show up. He cannot be controlled if he refuses to need anything the system sells. That man is free in a way no generation of men has been in 1,000 years. And millions of men are becoming that man right now. They are the quiet exodus, they are the shadow economy, and they are the parallel society being built in plain sight. And women are not invited, and not because men hate them, but because the cost of admission is trust, and trust was destroyed a long time ago. You cannot spend 50 years telling a man he is toxic, defective, unnecessary, and dangerous, and then expect him to risk everything he has rebuilt to let you back into his life the moment your plan stops working. That door only opens one way. So the future is being written right now, and it is being written by men who have nothing left to lose and everything to protect. They are buying land in the country. They are learning trades that AI can't touch. They are stacking Bitcoin and precious metals. They are building private schools and homeschool networks. They are forming brotherhoods that function like the old school tribes. They are moving to jurisdictions where the state is weak and family is still respected. Some are staying single and sovereign. Some are marrying younger traditional women from cultures that never swallowed the poison pill. Some are building intentional communities where men cooperate and women who understand the new reality are vetted and welcomed, but none of them are going back. None of them are returning to the plantation. None of them are putting the harness back on because a few women on TikTok started crying. That part of history is over. The age of men sacrificing everything for people who hate them is finished. The age of guilt, shame, and obligation as weapons is dead. The age of men defining their worth by female approval is buried, and something new is rising in its place. Men are becoming ungovernable. Men are becoming financially invisible. Men are becoming physically unbreakable, and men are becoming emotionally untouchable. And the world is about to discover what happens when the people who built everything decide they no longer have a stake in keeping it running for everyone else. This is not revenge. This is rebalancing. This is not the end of the world. This is the end of a world that needed to die. And from the ashes, men are building something new, something simpler, something stronger, something that cannot be taken, something that cannot be taxed, something that cannot be shamed. They are building peace, real peace, the kind of peace that comes when you finally stop fighting a war nobody ever told you could walk away from. And women are finally discovering the true meaning of the phrase they screamed for decades. Be careful what you wish for. You wanted a world without men in it. You got it. You wanted men to leave you alone. They did. You wanted to be independent. Congratulations. Now live with it. Winter is here, and winter does not care about your feelings. Winter does not negotiate. Winter does not apologize. Winter does not offer second chances. Winter simply is, and men are warm. Men are safe. Men are thriving. Men are free. For the first time in their lives, men are finally, truly, unshakably free. And freedom, once tasted, is never surrendered again. So, to every woman watching this who is finally starting to feel the cold, you did this, not all of you, but enough of you. And to every man watching this who is still on the fence, still feeling guilty, still wondering if he should go back and save people who never saved him, don't. Your peace is worth more than their panic. Your future is worth more than their past. Your life is yours now. Guard it with everything you have, because all roads lead to MWA. Men walking away. Now, I want to hear from you. What did you think about everything we just went through? Do you agree? Do you see it playing out around you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get this conversation going. Like the video if you felt the truth in this one. Don't forget to subscribe and share this with every man who needs to hear it. And just remember, brothers, all roads lead to MWA. Men walking away on and cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.